Oh, it is live. Power of the night. Streets are calling. Stealing from the night. The shadows falling.
Power
is
of
pretty
the
fucking
night.
hot. It's true. Always has been, always will be. Hello, fellow idiots. Welcome to the first episode of Classic Cutz here on Schlockaholics. We're going to be taking a trip down memory lane with some old video store classics from yesteryear. First up tonight, we have Critters from 1986. This is going to be the one that we're doing a little bit of a deep dive into here. Probably also just sharing some memories, some what ifs. You know, we'll get into some general conversation about it, and I think it'll be a real good time. On the panel tonight, we have Forrest Bennett of many B movies and trauma fame. He played the fucking Toxic Avenger. Give him his flowers.
Yes. I was Toxie.
You are Toxie, dude. You know.
Yeah, although
you've been in that fucking musty mask, I think it stays with you.
I mean, I will say the smell still sticks there. Still sticks.
You gotta put that into a car air freshener, you know, one of those little trees, but make it a little mop because it smells like Toxie. We got Jonathan Knight from the B Movie Madness Facebook group. What's up, brother? How you feeling tonight?
I'm doing well.
We also got Septum Sin of Septum Sin versus the World.
Oh,
I think he's doing a magic trick over there. He disappeared momentarily. There he is. How you doing, buddy?
Just catching things and doing ripping. Lots of ripping.
There you go. We also got Clint, a.k.a. Clint Steele of the Scream Until You Like It podcast and the Hamityville Horror podcast, respectively. Just listened to your guys' Jason Lives episode. Jason Goes to Hell while I was at work yesterday. Fantastic, man. I'm loving the show. I haven't listened to the Cobwebs one because I haven't seen the movie. I generally try not to listen to those ahead of time. Dead and Lovely is the only podcast I can listen to before I've seen the movie because they talk about so much ridiculous shit the whole time that it doesn't matter if you've seen the movie. Yeah. How you feeling today, buddy?
It's been a week already and it's only Wednesday, but that's okay. I'm glad to kick back and talk about some critter action. You know, I actually really kind of like this movie a lot, and this is one of those childhood favorites of mine. So I didn't mind watching it again, gearing up for this thing.
Hell yeah, man. It is one of the most rewatchable horror films of the 80s, too, I think. It's just perfect beer and popcorn fare.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably one of the best paced horror films that I've ever seen, too, which we will be talking about as we dive into it. Before we get into that, though, on account of the fact that these kind of take up the slot that our normal weekly, watch list / pickup shows would take up, Schlock Talk, regular viewers of the channel are familiar with that. Several of you guys have been on episodes of that at one point or another. Since this kind of takes up that slot, we're going to do like a mini Schlock Talk at the beginning of this. We're each going to recommend a film to you from our recent watch list that we thought was particularly good. And we'll probably plug something that we're going to be watching in the future that we're particularly excited about. I guess we'll just call it random recommendations. Doesn't really need a catchy title. It's just the opening segment to these Classic Cutz episodes. So Forrest, we'll start with you, buddy. Do you have anything that you've watched recently that you particularly feel should be, plugged to other people?
Well, I just saw Troma's Shakespeare Shitstorm for I think the 6th or 7th time last Friday. It was playing at Kevin Smith's Smodcastle. It was playing at Kevin Smith's Smodcastle Cinema in New Jersey. So I went there with a friend.
Nice.
Went there with a friend to go see it.
Man, I want that to come to physical so bad.
I know, but it's been. I mean, Troma's just been taking it on the road for the last 3 years. But but to anybody who's to any Schlockaholic viewers, if it comes to your town, go see it.
Are they ever going to put it out on physical? That's what I want to know.
I think they will. Troma champion. I think Troma's is one of the few studios left that still champions physical media.
It's just taken so long. You know what I mean?
How cool is Smodcastle? I mean, it looks kind of awesome.
I mean, it's basically a Kevin. I mean, it's basically a Kevin Smith museum, as well. You know, in addition to being a movie theater.
Yeah, I know that he always wanted to have a movie theater that he could just play whatever he wanted.
Exactly. I mean, they still have. They still have a lot of like general release stuff, like that Taylor Swift concert movie. But actually, a movie that I produced called Ronald's Little Factory had its East Coast premiere there last month, which I was really excited about. I mean, Clerks was one of those movies that made me want to make movies, and to have a movie that I was involved with making play there was really exciting.
I can imagine, dude. You know, having your movie play any kind of a theater, let alone one that's like
owned by Kevin
associated with such iconic fucking people. Yeah, that's got to be quite the rush. I think the frustration with Shakespeare Shitstorm is just that it's taken so goddamn long to come out at all. Like, you could buy a poster for it on the Trauma website, but you can't actually buy the movie. That was made so long ago. Dane still gave a shit about B movies when it was done. I think he's got a credit on it.
Yeah, he does. I think he was in the editing department. Yeah, it's been 5 years since it was filmed, but yeah, it's been playing in theaters and festivals for several years now. But that's kind of I noticed that's the case with troll movies. I mean, Poultrygeist is officially a 2006 release, but I don't think it made its way to theaters. But at the time, Poultrygeist had come out, I was living in Salt Lake City, Utah, and it didn't make its way there until 2008. And then I think it was another few years before it actually came out on DVD and Blu-ray. That's the thing with troll movies is that they'll play festivals and theaters and festivals for at least a few years before it actually gets a physical release.
Yeah, I feel that. It's just, I don't know. It does feel like Shakespeare Shitstorms has been a particularly long time, but maybe just because it had been so long. Well, not really, because the Nukem High stuff, I don't know what I'm talking about. I guess as you get older, the time goes quicker, and it feels like it wasted more of your life. You know? When you're like a teenager waiting for movies, you don't give a shit if it takes 3 years, but now, come on, man. I've got like middle-aged crap to start doing before I, cross that fucking threshold.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look at Stranger Things. I could give a shit about that anymore. And there's that tiny part of my heart that still really, really cares, So when it finally does come out, I'll be hyped. But for now, it's just
actually, I would say that's kind
of. I actually have the Shakespeare Shitstorm poster, and I've never seen the movie.
I have the T-shirt, but no, that's kind of how I felt about Euphoria. I mean, I was really into the first season, but then they took forever for the season 2 to come out, and now who knows if season 3 will come out. So yeah, my interest in that show has pretty much been shot.
Yeah, and you can always rekindle it by like a quick marathon or something when it's finally finished, but it just illustrates why I need for stuff to conclude. Can't do that with promo. It's pretty much you're just waiting for that. So Shakespeare Shitstorm, what do you got for the upcoming list that you're particularly excited about? Anything in the near future that you've got your eyes on to watch that you think you might enjoy taking a look at?
Oh God. Well, I'm going to go see Thanksgiving tomorrow night.
Very intrigued by that film.
Yeah, Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. I mean, I've been waiting 16 years to see this. As someone who saw as one of one of 10 people who saw Grindhouse when it came out. That I'm excited. So
you really need to make all those other trailers as well.
I mean, I think the only ones they haven't done yet are the Werewolf Women of the SS and Don't. I think those are the only ones left. Everything else has been done. Machete.
So basically, the one people really want to see, and some other one.
Yeah, I mean, Machete. Yeah,
Werewolf Women of the SS is one that I've been.
Yeah, with Nicolas Cage as Fu Manchu. They got to have Nicolas Cage as Fu Manchu.
He'll do it. We all know he will. So there you go. Not a bad pair of films. What about you, Jonathan? You got someone off your recent watch list that you want to plug for the people?
I'll be watching and reviewing Bathtub Shark Attack soon. I'm really looking forward to finally watching that one. Checked out Mako, the Jaws of Death, which is a Jaws cash-in from, 76. I really enjoyed that one.
Mm-hmm.
So checking out some shark stuff to prepare for Bathtub Shark Attack.
Nice. You can't go wrong with those, man. Shark movies are always a good time. I haven't seen Bathtub Shark Attack, but I know a couple of people that heavily supported it and were involved in it, and it seems like a good time. Clint, you probably are familiar with a few of those people as well.
I was a little involved in it. I think I made a small donation to it. I know Don interviewed Madeline Deering on his little Director's Den podcast thing he was doing for a little while. I'm kind of excited about it. I think, wasn't that one done, shot on video?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
Okay. Yeah. You don't see a lot of that anymore. It's kind of cool when it happens.
You don't.
Yep.
And you should.
Yeah.
I know. People need to make a renaissance of that again. I think it'd be pretty great. I'm actually looking around for some VHS cameras myself, and had a dream the other night that I found one, which was pretty, nice. That's how you know that it's on my mind.
I was gonna say I got my old high-8 camera out of my parents' house, my parents' basement last Thanksgiving, but I need to get it fixed. I just need to get the slot for the tapes, the tape slot fixed.
Yeah, man, I recommend joining some camcorder. There's Facebook groups for that kind of shit. Then that's probably the best way to network with people that can help you repair that stuff. Because you can't exactly take it back to Sears.
Yeah.
So you've got to find someone that can help you repair those things. I mostly know about this because of skateboard videography. A lot of people still use old cameras like the VX1000 and shit. Yeah. To shoot skateboarding.
I actually just worked on a shot on video slasher flick just last month with some of my troll peeps.
Yeah, there's definitely resources to get those cameras and keep them in working order, at least for the foreseeable future. So it's worth looking into that if you really want to shoot some shot on video stuff. I really would like to. I don't know if it's to be a movie or just some weird home video stuff or making my own old school fishing show. I'm still not certain. I have some short film ideas, but the old school fishing show sounds like it would be a good way to float a few cans and do some fun stuff during the warmer months of the year. And I think people really enjoy it. Cody's hyped for Bathtub Shark Attack. It's a shame that you can't join us live tonight, man. But if you want to throw in your recommendation from your recent watch list and your recommendation for your upcoming watch list, that'd be real fucking rad. Clint, we were on you, so we might as well continue with you. You got anything off the recent watch list you want to plug?
A friend of mine in Pittsburgh has a really large movie server that he kind of just shares with us on Plex. And I watched one the other night that I feel is a little kind of unsung from 1998. I saw the director's cut of Dark City. Which
nice. An awesome movie, dude.
Yeah,
Alex Proyas.
That one got right by me, and I never saw it when it came out. And and all this time has gone by, still hadn't seen it, and I sat down and watched that the other night, and it really is awesome, and it didn't get the love that it deserved, I feel.
Kind of mind-blowing, really.
Yeah, and I feel it was pretty inspirational for other people, because there's been movies that have come out since then that really had a similar feel or feel like they were inspired by it. Like The Matrix comes to mind,
Absolutely.
or Inception, it had this darkness to it that was appealing. I really love the old school backgrounds and stuff. It felt like really 20s or 30s to me.
I was gonna say felt very expressionist.
Yeah, and it's the only movie I've ever seen that made me want to go find one of those automats to go to.
Dude, if you really want a dope double feature of weirdness, you need to pair that
Yeah.
the next time that you revisit it, because I'm sure there will be many revisits in your future. It's just a good movie. I love Dark City. It was one of those that, like, I feel
me
like
too.
for an entire summer, every tape I rented had the Dark City trailer on it, which is why I eventually, like, called and made sure the video store had it. And
I remember. I remember renting Spawn as a kid, and seeing the trailer for Dark City attached to it. And that's what got me wanting to see it.
There was a solid fucking year there, or summer at least, where like every big movie that I rented that I wanted to see had that Dark City trailer on it, and it did not disappoint, man. City of Lost Children, if you want that dope double feature of weirdness, pair it with City of Lost Children, and they really complement each other very well, especially if you're under the influence of something. And both just great films, very very artistic films, which isn't something we get to shout out very much on this channel. But yeah, it's like Dark City's kind of like a weird art piece, that just works. It's also still structured
awesome.
like a fucking movie, though, so it's digestible. It's not so weird that it shoots itself in the foot.
Oh, sure, definitely. And it had just the right level of weirdness for me. So I definitely think I'll go back and watch it again a few times. And I'll take that recommendation for the City of Lost Children. That sounds awesome. And if we're throwing out a future watch,
earlier Ron Perlman role too in City of Lost Children.
Yeah.
I guess it's not early, but it's like an unsung Ron Perlman role in there.
Obviously, it's definitely unsung because he had already done Beauty and the Beast by the time that movie.
Yeah,
that
and
movie
shit like
was made.
Quest for Fire and several other awesome things.
I am ashamed to say, I am embarrassed to admit though that because I'll say Jean-Pierre Jeunet directed that movie, right?
Yeah, some French dude.
Yeah,
I think you're right. That sounds right.
I'm ashamed to say the only movie I've seen from him is Alien Resurrection.
I'm proud to say that because those French, man, we don't vibe a lot of the time with the film sensibilities, but
an excellent film.
I do think Alien Resurrection is an excellent film, and I'll die on that fucking hill. I know me and Clint have several other friends that will be right there with us.
I mean, it was
definitely.
I mean, I'll admit, it was a childhood favorite for me, but I just feel embarrassed because Jean-Pierre Jeunet has done so many great movies, and I haven't seen any of them. Besides, and apart from Resurrection, I have not seen any of his work outside of that.
Well, I mean, the only other one we've talked about tonight is definitely leagues better than fucking Alien Resurrection as a film, but as like filmmaking as art or whatever. But I think on most days I'd rather watch Alien Resurrection,
Absolutely.
Put a couple beers in you, fantasize about buying your own Winona Ryder android. It's all good. I mean, you're just coming up bases when you're watching that. There's a fucking gun and a thermos. That's all I need. What about your future watch there, Clint?
In light of the movie we're going to talk about tonight, I have not seen Critters Attack, so I plan on watching these in order, but I'm going to watch that one.
Fuck yeah.
I know it's got some mixed reviews.
I know I kind of hate it. I was going to say I don't hate it, but I was going to say
I remember getting my Blu-ray copy from you, Brandon. Actually, the Blu-ray copy of Critters Attack. I remember getting.
I had that extra. Yeah, so
motherfuckers are giving them away. That's how bad it is. It really is not horrid. There's things about it that I like. There's things about it that I don't like, and there's things about it that are relevant to this discussion tonight because they take an element from early drafts of another film and incorporate it into Critters Attack. And if they claim it's not from that, they're fucking lying. But we'll uncover that as we dive into Critters here. Brandon, what do you got for us from the recent watch list?
Not a lot, because it's just I've been busy trying to... because I was unable to go to our annual conference that we usually go to so that I can earn my licensure hours, I've been doing a lot of trainings for my therapy license. Fun stuff like how to write a research paper and how to read ethics codes. Stuff that everybody loves.
Sounds real fucking stimulating, dude.
The only full movie I've watched this past week is the horror cut of Amityville Webcam, which I will say is completed, with the exception of credits. And I am starting work on the monster cut now, which is the full cut of the film that is going to be the main cut. The other is going to be more of a special feature.
Yep.
So I guess one could say that I watched a movie and I sat down with Kim. We threw it on a disc and put it in the DVD player and just watched it. And it was a fun watch. We enjoyed it together. Well, I don't know if she enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, that was the important thing.
And
she enjoys you, which means by default.
Yep. And for me, living on, I live on Long Island, so I'm not too far. I'm not too far from the real Amityville. So I did shoot some B-roll footage for the movie. So this will be the first
the real
movie
Amityville.
Yes, the first Amityville movie to actually be filmed in Amityville.
And Forrest plays a very comedic role in that because he interacts with me acting stupid, and he calls me out on acting stupid, but I don't listen to him.
Right, even though we're
both
like hundreds of miles away from each other.
Actually, yes, Mo, you are in both cuts.
Well, I expect to be compensated for my time, Brandon. Now, if you guys run across any unique coasters at any establishments that you're at in the near future, go ahead and steal those things and put them in whatever next package we exchange. That's all I ask. So my residuals for the Amityville stuff I've done for you can be bar and or restaurant coasters because I'm trying to get a collection going. So that goes with anybody. You want to send me coasters, contact me. And I'll probably give you my address. I'm pretty irresponsible with my personal information. You were saying?
Oh, if it ever gets a physical release, everybody who had a part in it's getting one, whether it's one I make or whether it's one that is officially pressed, which I'm slowly trying to work those details out. But that horrible film will be out sometime in the future. The only difference between the two cuts is one, it has the longer cut actually has a few other pretty cool things like the monster cut. Cody is in both cuts, but he has a longer part in the monster cut. John Ward of was it Axmas, I believe, fame. He's in the monster cut. So it's going to be some fun, and even Kyle has some longer scenes in there where we get to see him try to summon a dog molestation demon. So and fail. So some fun stuff.
Oh, Kyle.
This stream just got demonetized. No, we don't monetize our shit. Nobody's making money here. That's awesome, dude. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I do find some level of comedy in the fact that it's a well-known, established thing amongst my friends that I don't like supernatural horror, and I'm basically indifferent to Amityville stuff. But here I am with my only 2 IMDb credits being Amityville films.
Oh yeah, because you're also in the Amityville estate sale. Forgot.
Yeah, I am. Haunted ashtrays, man. You got to beware of those things. So yeah, I need a copy of that at some point too. So if you guys could point me in the right direction, that'd be sick. I'm sure you have, but I just forgot about it.
That's on Retrosploitation now, which hey, you can also get a lot of these films that Forrest is in over there too. With the, I think Amityville Thanksgiving is there, and Turkey Day is going to be on there. I'm sure.
Yeah, Turkey Day is coming soon. Also, Silent Night 3.
We're distro bros, dude. We're on the same label. That's cool. I'm gonna have to have you feature on a track one of these days, like Korn did with Fred Durst, regrettably.
Yeah, they're based in my hometown.
Oh my god, that song it's so hard to listen to now. So for my recent watch list, I've been fucking with a little bit of Stephen King stuff. I don't know what it was. The cold weather months kind of kicked in, and I think someone mentioned having watched like Salem's Lot or something in some podcast that I was listening to. I don't even know if it was Clint or Hamityville or not Hamityville, Dead and Lovely, Salem's Lot.
Okay.
Might have been
I
you,
should-
John. I don't know. Or you?
I just,
One of you guys
read-
mentioned Salem's Lot.
I just recently read the book for the first time.
Maybe it was. If you made a post about it, maybe it was you then. So I saw something on Facebook to do with Salem's Lot, or heard it in a podcast. I don't know. That's how my brain works sometimes. But it just kind of stuck there. And then when the cold weather months hit, I was like, you know what? It is a good time for a Stephen King marathon. So I've set about trying to work through the TV specials and the movies. And I started pretty light with the Golden Years, but man, did I love my revisit of that this time. I don't know what it is about the Golden Years. It might be one of the most underrated Stephen King things, really. It's got a special vibe of it, all of its own to it. Like, there's intentional comedy all throughout the whole thing. And then there's like the whole sleazy angle of the shop being involved, which is like a Stephen King movie verse thing, you know, that's involved in several of his other projects or adaptations and books. I don't know if it's in the books because I haven't read some of them, but like Firestarter, they're involved in that. There's at least one or two other ones. I can't think of them at the moment. But there's, you know, Golden Years is very different to every other Stephen King adaptation. It's all about this dude that gets like sudden onset Benjamin Button's disease or something from this explosion at this lab. So he's like aging backwards, and that's pretty cool in and of itself. But then you add on top of that like the sleazy, greasy, like government backroom deals and wiretapping and hitmen and all that stuff. And the movie or the miniseries really kind of captured, and then on top of that you have this layer of very intentional humor. So it's just different to all the other Stephen King adaptations, and it might be the most fun one to watch for me, I think, and in terms of just random fun. You know, is it the best horror story or best, you know, I don't even know if I would call it a horror movie, to be honest. It's just the Golden Years. You should definitely check it out. It's worth watching. It ends a little cliffhangery because they were supposed to do like a series of it, but at the time it didn't like take, so they ended up canceling it. And Stephen King apparently asked for like 3 hours the next spring or whatever to conclude the story at least, and they refused him that. I'm sure back in those days he was on a lot of cocaine, so negotiating with the guy was probably unpleasant. And they were just like, you know what? We're going to just wash our hands of this, bro. Like, you're going to have to move on. So that's what happened. We didn't really get a proper conclusion to it. And I've never read the story that it's based on. It's one of those few Stephen King things I've never fucked with. But I really like it, and I think other people should watch it. And while you're at it, go watch Firestarter. That's another underrated one. It gets a lot of shit from people that I think is kind of unwarranted. Firestarter is just good fun if you can divorce yourself from whatever went on in the story, because that's another one I've never read. It's just a solidly fun sort of movie, and it has that TV movie quality to it, which I like. I get that a lot of people don't like that kind of vibe, but there's something wholesome about it, man, that just puts me at ease when I'm watching one of those movies that has that TV movie vibe or is a TV movie. So yeah, I don't know. That kind of factors into tonight's discussion, because this is a really relatively tame horror film from a blood and gore and like exploitation standpoint. It's nothing you can't watch with the whole family. We'll get into that in a minute, but from my upcoming watch list, the thing that I definitely want to plug is Otter Noggins. I'm going to be giving that a look here in the next few days. Joe Sherlock joint. We're going to be promoting it on our next Schlock Talk, hopefully, if not the one after that, with Joseph Fogley. And if we can get Joe Sherlock in there as well, that'd be real cool. But I super loved the original Odd Noggins, and I'm very much looking forward to this sequel that he's doing for it. Joe is known for a lot of disjointed, weird anthologies and strange happenings. So if you like that kind of stuff in your micro budget B movies, check Joe Sherlock out. You know, that's the kind of stuff that you don't really need it to be high production value. It's more the idea and the atmosphere of it. And Joe manages to always pull that shit off. One of my favorite B movie filmmakers, bar none, you know. Mr. Black is the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
That may be true. Wasn't there also a goat named Black Phillip in that movie, The Witch?
Yeah, that was what I was thinking of, Mr. Black Phillip.
Yeah, I heard that goat was a real dick. Mr. Birch. Yeah, Mr. Birch is the goat. And if you want to learn about Mr. Birch, you got to watch those Joe Sherlock flicks. I mean, he's the only man I know that can spoon that much mayonnaise into his mouth without throwing up. So check it out. Corman's own mayonnaise, too. It's nutritious and delicious. All part of a balanced breakfast, if you know what I'm saying. I have to step away briefly for a moment, but before we dive into our movie tonight, I would like all of you guys to entertain us by listing other tiny terror, little tiny critter flicks that you're aware of. There's got to be several that you guys have seen over the years that you could put in the same camp as Critters. Because one thing you got to talk about as soon as you open up a discussion on Critters is whether or not it's just a rip-off of fucking Gremlins. So go ahead and throw out any of your tiny terror flicks. I'll be back momentarily. You do it in the chat too, Cody. We know you're listening.
Actually, Ouija's was one that not many people think about. That one actually was Ghoulies in Vegas, essentially.
Mhm.
They didn't even have to have weed involved in it. They did, but that one was entertaining. I was surprised how entertained I was, because the evil Bong films, I get a kick out of them, but I also acknowledge that they're terrible, and I can also see how most people probably would not like them because after the third film they get mondo lazy. So. But seeing one of those told me, hey, well, if they make a film like that, I'm sure I could. But Ouija's definitely one that is definitely underrated.
I might have to look for that. I don't think I've ever seen that. By what time did it come out?
It's not that long ago. It's like a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's actually in that Evil Bong box set that was there. But
Okay.
but it's a fun one. I think Mo would agree with me that they didn't need a weed part into it, but it was kind of like a little Ghoulies. It could have been a Ghoulies sequel for all they did.
1000% that started conception as a Ghoulies sequel, and then they were like, it's going to be such a headache to try to deal with all the Ghoulies stuff and who owns it, because I don't think Charlie Band owns it again yet. So they just went with Ouija's, and the weed thing has almost nothing to do with the movie. It's just kind of thrown on top of it. So if you go into it with a couple of beers in you and you watch it thinking that it's Ghoulies Go to Vegas, you're going to be stoked, because that's exactly what it is.
I'd almost take Ouija's out of the box set and then replace it with Evil Bong 8. And then that'll be
that makes more sense. They really should update that at some point, and maybe actually get a fucking Gingerweed Man DVD out there to put in there as well. Or I mean, Blu-ray.
Yeah, definitely.
It's ridiculous that we haven't got one yet.
Yeah.
What other little tiny terror, creepy critter flicks can you guys think of?
You probably know the one I'm going to throw out. We talked about it once. Seed People always comes to mind.
That Denim Daddy up in there.
Yeah, exactly. It's that was a nice little, kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers / extraterrestrial creature thing. They rolled on the ground too, curled up in a little ball and just like shot across the ground. Yeah, and
100% took some shit from this movie and how to do that too, I think.
Yeah, they tried to change it up a little bit by making them more like, plant-like, which I guess that's where the dynamic of ultraviolet light, actually harming them came from. That was a fun time. I like that one a lot more than I expected to.
What about you, Jonathan? You got a little creepy critter flick that you want to throw out there?
The one that is 100% a Gremlins ripoff, Munchies.
Yeah,
I enjoy Munchies. Now I haven't seen some kind of sequels to it that Jim Warnarski did. I don't know, but the first one I really enjoy.
I enjoy it, but not enough to watch sequels.
No, I've seen the VHS cover, and that's enough for me. But Hobgoblins as well. I really like Hobgoblins.
Classic. Yeah, can't go
And
wrong with that.
Hobgoblins too.
Not seen that one.
I didn't see the second one either. I saw that first one.
What about you, Forrest? You got a tiny terror flick you want to throw out there?
The Gate.
Fuck yeah. The Gate does have some creepy little critters in it. Stop motion as hell, too, with those little
Yeah.
critters. You know how I feel about that.
Oh, absolutely. I think we discussed it on Inside Movies Galore. Along with the second movie, didn't we?
We did both the Gate movies, and at one point in the night, my cat broke an entire pitcher that I had made mixed drinks in during the podcast. So there's just a gigantic shattering glass noise in the middle of one of those episodes. But yeah, we did do a Gate 1 and 2 discussion. And the second Gate movie really is worth watching as well.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think and I also think it's if you have a kid that you want to get into horror, the Gate is definitely one of those good. Is definitely gateway movies.
Yeah, I think it's
I
rated
love the
like
Gate.
PG. You know,
Yeah,
it's right there with this of being like totally family friendly horror that you can. There's no nudity to speak of. There's a little bit of suggestive content because it was the 80s or the 90s or whatever.
And the violence isn't so gruesome that it'll get. It's not so gruesome that that'll traumatize. That'll traumatize a kid.
Shoot, Dolls was shown to me as a kid.
Oh, Dolls was good.
Yeah.
Cody recommends Blood Dolls, which is a great tiny terror movie. Not a creepy critter movie. I would say hideous for full moon movies that are about creepy little critters, because they are very creepy and little critters. For me, I don't know, man. I mean, I think you guys have kind of hit all the main ones that I would fuck with. I guess I got to go Troll 2.
Troll 2.
You got to have some Troll 2 in the mix. You guys got all the heavy hitters out of the way. Unless there's something else I'm thinking of that. Nah.
I mean, obviously Gremlins, but I mean, we're this is kind of stemming. We're already stemming this conversation from, the accusations of Critters being a Gremlins knockoff.
Which it is not, and we will prove that tonight, as many have proven in the past. If anything, well, we'll get there. So yeah, that's kind of for me. It would be Troll 2. I think that's plenty of good recommendations on tiny terror flicks. So we're gonna read the tail of the tape for Critters, and then we're gonna really just bang out the rest of this discussion because Critters moves pretty quick. It's one of those movies that doesn't lollygag. It doesn't try to build up a bunch of terror or suspense or anything. It just has fun being what it is, and you're along for the ride. Critters was written by Stephen Herrick and Dominic Muir. It was directed by Stephen Herrick. It was produced by Rupert Harvey and had cinematography by Tom Susted. It had music by David Newman. It was distributed by New Line Cinema with a release date of April 11th, 1986. It has a cool runtime of 85 minutes. I think it had a budget of, that is not, okay. I think it had a budget of $3 million, which was a lot for, and that's why it doesn't show up on any of our main episodes, because this is way over budget for the type of film that we talk about typically. It grossed something like $13.5 million against that budget. So successful film at that. This had a good run in the fucking theaters, I would imagine, and a real good run on home video. It stars Scott Grimes, Dee Wallace, Billy Greenbush, Nadine Vanderveld, Don Keith Opper, Terrence motherfucking Mann, Emmett Walsh, Lynn Shay, and Billy Zane.
Yep.
And that's kind of where we're at with it. We got to break down those characters as we go through this. I got to silence this because that's just not what we need. So, first experiences with Critters. We're gonna start with you, Clint, this time, and we're gonna work around the circle. When did you first see this film? What was your initial impression?
Preteen, TV cut, and basically it was just something that was on. I turned it on. I don't even know if I had it at the beginning. I think I was pretty close because I remember the barn scene, and it just captivated me. I watched the whole thing, and I thought it was one of the coolest things I ever saw. This is the reason why I could have damn near killed myself or give myself third-degree burns, because this is where I learned how to do
Yes.
aerosol can trick. I never
Oh,
would have
gosh.
thought that on my own. This movie did it, so like I got into a lot of trouble after seeing it.
Fuck yeah,
Oh, boy.
dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about you, Brandon? Well, okay, so you saw it. What did you? Well, you kind of went through it. You loved the movie, and it made you almost burn yourself to death. That's cool. I'm so stoked on that. What about you, Brandon? What was your first experience with Critters, and how did you find them? Like, how did it sit with you?
Well, I was young and I was very scared of everything horror related when I was young. And I'll admit, the Critters scared me as a kid because my father played the uncensored version for me as I was watching it, as he liked to do. And so I don't know how old I was when did this come out? It was 80 something.
86.
Yeah, so I was probably around 8, maybe at most 7, probably when I saw it. And yeah, it was it stuck in my mind as like, oh my gosh, no, I'm never going to watch this again. And then when I was working for working early, like really cheap job that I used to work for many years, my way of taking vacations is I would go to those little timeshare pitches and just ignore them for most of the time. And while I was there, they had a big old Blu-ray player in the room that I was staying in, and I found all 4 Critters movies for like $5. Nice. So I sat there by the beach in one of those giant rooms with the balcony watching Critters 1 through 4. Just back to back, and I had gotten a lot more enjoyment because I was definitely much better at seeing those things than I was at 8. Yes, indeed. Well, be sure to order from Torgo's Pizza. And Mo, you're on mute. Mm-hmm.
I said, don't forget the LSD, Cody, for Torgo. He pretty much runs on that. And then also I said that Critters Marathon sounds pretty dope.
Oh,
I did not see them all right in a row the first time. What were you going to say?
It was fun. I showed up to that timeshare presentation totally drunk and laughed throughout the entire thing. I don't think they understood, but as a poor person, that was how I had vacations,
Just getting drunk, watching Critters, showing up at timeshare fucking presentations. That's almost as good as Clint fucking lighting himself on fire. I mean, we're off to a great start with this. John, did you do anything fucked up to yourself after watching Critters for the first time? No.
Sadly, no.
How old were you? When did you? How did you?
I was a few years old. I saw Critters 3 first because it was a new release. And then I went back and watched 1 and 2. We went to the video store and rented 1 and 2. So I was about maybe 5, 6 years old. And I loved them instantly. I probably watched them more than Gremlins as a kid. More than that, yeah.
For sure.
Even though I love Gremlins, but, Critters,
I love Gremlins too, but it's more of a seasonal flick for me. It really is.
I agree.
Even as a kid, like I'd watch Gremlins 2 a lot more than I'd watch the first one for whatever reason. Probably because it's more crazy. And then I would watch these movies, if I needed that little furry critter fix, So it stands to reason then that you saw it really young and you loved it. And you've loved it for a lot of years. That's good to hear. What about you, Forrest?
All right, so I forget exactly how old I was when I saw Critters. I forget if I was in high school or college, but so I'm wearing my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles T-shirt right now because Yeah, exactly. I'm seeing the commentary. First time I saw it was in TMT. Yes, the first actually I discovered Critters through Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because in the first movie Raphael goes to a late night screening of Critters, and he walks out of the theater and says, "Oh,
Who
where did
comes
they come
up
up
with this stuff?
stuff?"
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of that's how I first learned about Critters. So and then I would
And
see
cricket.
and then it was yes, and I also learned about cricket through the turtles. I mean,
Yeah, no,
I
the
don't know how
crumpet
parents
is. No,
cricket.
cricket is.
Yeah, and parents complained that showed that those movies that whole franchise had no educational value.
Seriously.
But yeah, so I learned about Critters through Turtles, and so it kind of got me curious. And I remember seeing all the movies in the video store, although I never rented them although for the longest time I never got around to watching them. And then I think it was in high school I saw the second movie on television, because I remember there was the giant ball of Krites rolling down and eating a guy. Well, actually, they was rolling down the street. The giant Krite ball rolling down the street, eating a guy.
He rolls over a dude and it's just a skeleton.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite scenes in horror history.
But the first movie itself, I watched later, and I actually had the good fortune to see it in theaters twice in the last few years.
Amazing.
It's fun to see it with an audience.
That's Forrest Horry, though. He lives over there in New York, where they actually respect this shit. So you can see like screening of rad horror films all the fucking time.
You can see
insane.
like
most of the time when we talk about stuff. I'm surprised you didn't see it in the last 2 weeks, Forrest. Usually that's the pattern when we're talking about this. Like we'll be sitting down to talk about some classic horror film, and Forrest will just be like, "Oh yeah, just the other week I saw it. Man's Chinese fucking film theater or something, or wherever these theaters are."
Right. I mean, I just saw Halloween 3 times. The original Halloween in theaters 3 times this past month. But anyway, nice. Yeah. So yeah. But anyway, I mean, yeah, I do have it on. I do have Critters the box set. I've seen it in theaters twice. I think it's a fun. Yeah, it's a fun. I think it's a fun flick. Great cast, great production value. I have Power of the Night on my Apple Music playlist. I had to like rip the song from a YouTube video to get it, because unfortunately there's no like legit recording of it like on like that's in circulation. It's not on Apple Music or Spotify or like a streaming release. I know we need a legit release of Power of the Night.
I mean, that's how I got that song out of Star Trek 4, that punk song that they did. I managed to find a full recording of it, but it was like that it's not official anywhere. So I've got this unofficial recording of that song sitting in my playlist somewhere.
So my origin with Critters is pretty boring. It was just one of those things. I saw him at the video store, definitely was not old enough to, or even alive to have seen it when it came out. But later in the 90s, during the peak of my video store days as a wee lad, I started real early, like 6-7 years old, just being a regular at the video store until I was 17 and it closed, and I was maybe their most loyal, frequent customer. I mean, I was a freak about that shit. I just imagine everything I do with it now, but like having to do it with a video store back then, so you were there all the fucking time, like every other night, Critters was just something, I saw it on the shelves, I don't think I'd ever seen a trailer of it before. I was real little, maybe like 8 years old when I first saw this. And the second one did catch my fancy a little bit more because it has that big ball of critters on the cover.
Yeah. Plus, much like Gremlins for me, Critters 2 is a seasonal watch. Like when it's Easter, I'll throw it on.
Exactly. The first one though, I did hold out. I didn't watch Critters 2 at first because I needed to see the first one. So when that came back in stock, I rented it and just fell in love with it. I mean, I love the movie. It's so fun. It's one of the best movies to put on with like mixed company because it's, you know, not terribly offensive or gory or sexual or anything like that. It's perfectly balanced so that you could watch it with mixed company, but it's still fucking rad, which is another great, you know, indicator of a good film to me. There's just something so fun about the way this does the tiny terror stuff that is very unique to Critters, you know, which is where I take some umbrage with it being talked about as like a Gremlins ripoff, which is where we have to break this down a little bit here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I sort of feel like the accusations, I should say, accusations are kind of moot now that Warner Brothers owns both.
In a way.
Yeah.
But there's still people that kind of make them, which is annoying. What do you guys think? I mean, I guess we'll start with you, Clint. Do you think this is a Critters ripoff or cash-in, or do you think it's just similar?
I think it's just similar because wasn't this in production like 2 years before Gremlins, something like that?
Yes.
About that.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know which idea was developed first. You know, maybe it just took a long time for Gremlins to get some momentum and get off the ground. Sorry, I have a child having a meltdown. But you know, yeah, I never really felt that way. Because this fundamentally they're different. I mean, you never really establish where the gremlins come from, and they're cute little fuzzy things, you know, before they actually become gremlins.
Yeah.
And these are like hairy space creatures with, you know, poison quills. I mean, I just never really thought of them as the same thing.
They're vaguely similar in that they're both tiny, toothy things that do naughty stuff, you know. But like, okay, Critters wasn't in production 2 years before Gremlins, but in a sense it was. I mean, it was written, the screenplay existed, it was handed off to the dude that fucking ended up directing the movie. They did some rewrites on it to actually dig it even further from fucking Gremlins. And we end up with the final product of Critters. Even with that in public knowledge, we'll still accuse on Gremlins, which I don't understand because the plots couldn't be more different. And the movies, the creatures themselves are similar in that they're tiny and they teeth and they people.
Yeah.
But the plot of the movies themselves couldn't be more different. I mean, other than the fact that they take place in like America, I don't really see a lot of similarities between the movies.
Right. I mean,
and they vibe to them, you know. That's it. What were you gonna say?
I mean, yeah. Then on top, it was Clint was saying that I mean, we know the Krites are, you know, they're pretty clear that they're aliens. Where and this is more of an alien invasion. This is more of an alien invasion movie than just some cute cuddly creature that transforms into a mischievous, like the gremlins exist just to cause havoc, whereas the Krites, I mean, they're basically they're basically like space convicts. I mean, yeah, they eat people.
Right.
But, sorry. I mean, yeah, they eat everything in sight, but they're basically. I mean, I mean, I guess they're a little less. I mean, compared to gremlins, they're a little less animalistic. Like they're smart. They're definitely. They're more like a group of like. They're like they're like space convicts. I mean, because they're being chased by these bounty hunters. They're more like convicts than just these creatures of unknown origin. I feel like there's more story. There's more of a story to them. Not story, but like more of a background to them.
True, and some of that can be explained, like further developed with the idea of some of the Krite behavior through the film, which we'll get into. What about you other guys? Jonathan, what do you think of like there's enough similarities to consider it a fucking Gremlins ripoff?
I don't really consider it a ripoff. I mean, it doesn't matter. Even if it was just another small creature, people were going to consider it a ripoff. I think it's its own thing, very different from Gremlins. I don't consider Ghoulies a Gremlins ripoff either. I mean,
yeah,
the only one is Munchies. That's the only one I consider a ripoff because it was supposed to be a ripoff. But like
I
you
need to
said,
see Munchies.
it's fun.
Yeah,
But,
I don't think I ever saw Munchies either.
I've got the double pack that was released. I think Shout Factory released a while back, which it's just I love the cover of one of them, the one where he's got like the pizza, and he's wearing a leather jacket and sunglasses. That just that just tells me I need to see it.
He's got a dope mohawk. Yeah,
but I do agree. I actually don't think that it. I mean, I understand where they took some ideas from it, but then again, there's nothing 100% original these days. People take an idea, they put their own spin on it, and they run with it, and then it comes up with something. It's something that is original still. Maybe it's not like 100% original, but that's how things get created. People take things and then they build on them. And I think Critters was definitely had some Gremlins scaffolding, because they act a lot like the Gremlins, and there's a lot of that similar horror comedy element to it. But I also like how they made the Critters basically space gangsters.
Yes.
And because when I was a kid, I didn't get that part. I just saw they were like mindless killing machines. That's all I saw as a kid. But as an adult, when I watched, I was like, oh, these guys it's sort of like Chucky. Chucky scared me a whole lot as a little kid, but once I actually watched the movies and heard Chucky speak, it was hard to get scared of half of those movies. Some, like Curse of Chucky or Cult of Chucky, I think it was Curse of Chucky, actually did come across as scary, but I think the movies where they had him speak the least were the ones that actually had scares to them. So, I mean, it's the same thing there. I mean, as soon as they started speaking about that, they started being fun. Oh, that was the one I was thinking of. Dingleberries. You know which one I'm talking about, Mo.
That's a solid flick. Yeah, it's a good one. Everyone should see that. Very much in the vein of Critters.
That one is very much Critters.
Do you have? Definitely watch Dingleberries. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but you can get it direct from Chris.
It's been on my watch list. Yeah, it's been on my watch list for a while, so I need to get around to it.
I'll look for it.
Don't get easily offended.
Clint, do you think there's any weight to the Critters Gremlins comparison? I mean,
I really don't. I mean, yeah, I agree with everybody else. They're two very vastly different characters, and I like the backstory of the Krites, basically just being a menace anywhere they are, which is why they had to be captured and transported to like a space prison in the first place. And then, of course, I love that dynamic where they're like, whether they're eating everything, so we had to kill two of them so that the food will last longer. And they show their intelligence, even though they don't really understand our planet all that much, but they automatically understand certain things. When they hit that farmhouse, they eat the phone line, they kill the electricity in the place. I mean, they're essentially isolating that family,
tactical insertion, baby.
Yeah,
they drop down and they immediately like fucking take care of everything they have to isolate this family and feast on them.
I mean, the Gremlins, they're intelligent too, but just behave a lot differently. They seem to want to create more chaos than they do wanting to intentionally kill people.
Yeah.
Yes, whereas the Krites are very much using them for food. You know,
Yeah.
they need to be able to eat so that they can continue to do whatever they do. I've never really, honestly, as a kid, maybe I understood the connection better because it's like, oh, little killer creature movies, you know. But as an adult, and you've seen so many of those movies over the years, you realize that it was just a thing, you know. I think you know, honestly, the killer tiny critter thing was probably the origin of it. Probably dates back to somebody seeing a doll and being like, "Can you imagine if those things started?" Or what if like these weird little critters that these kids are like buying in the 80s became a creature? You know, there's like all types of ideas at the time because tiny little weird gross looking things where it was such a trend during like the late 70s and then all through the 80s, you know. So the movies make sense that they would happen, like even independently of each other, which is the case with Critters and Gremlins. The things literally share no similarities, and they even took care to, other than the fact that it's tiny furry things like attacking people, they took a lot of care to go back and scrub the thing and like rewrite the script to make sure that it wasn't infringing on any Gremlins territory. And then when you go back to even like, okay, there's an incident called the Kelly Hopkinsville incident, which is like a famous UFO case, right? Where these people, like this dad or this son or whatever, like saw this, you know, shooting star fall down. And it's basically a classic case of like shooting star plus random owl encounters plus moonshine equals insane UFO report, you know, from the 1950s or whenever it took place. And that's basically what happened. Like this family was scared by these. They saw a shooting star and they were all fucked up on something. You know, they had an encounter with some particularly aggressive owls, and then that turned into an alien encounter. You know, but there's certain things from the accounts of that case that are recreated throughout Critters. Like it is 100% based on that. I don't know why no one's ever like claimed credit for doing it. As far as I'm aware, they've never said explicitly that inspired parts of Critters, but they recreate parts of it in Critters, like the whole UFO landing and the dad and the kid going out to look at it, or the glowing eyes looking in the window, or there's a part where apparently one of the owls like reached in the house to scratch one of these redneck motherfuckers in the original case, and so that was recreated in that part where the big one reaches through the chest of drawers and grabs the girl, you know. Like they recreate shit from the Kelly's Hopkinsville thing all throughout Critters. Now, originally E.T. was supposed to be a film called Night Skies, which was also based on that incident. They eventually reworked it, dropped the whole element of like these random aliens attacking them, and in that they were intelligent too. They were scientists that were trying to like study us or whatever. But in the original Night Skies script, which eventually turned into E.T. By Spielberg, it was very much based on that incident, but there was a creature in there that was friendly and befriended the autistic son of the family. You know, so one of the gremlins was fucking friendly and befriended the kid, you know. They liked that better, so they ended up reworking that into what became E.T., but still based off this same very real or documented classic UFO incident. Okay. And this was his follow-up to Close Encounters. So then full circle, you come to Critters, and we have, you know, all of these things from that case recreated, but then it's also acknowledging the fact that E.T. was originally supposed to be based on that as well, with the part where the Krite bites the head off the E.T. doll. You know, the only thing they don't acknowledge is Gremlins, because Gremlins doesn't have any similarities with that stuff at all, with the original origin case that the whole thing shares DNA with. But Gremlins does share DNA with it, in that the creatures in that were based off of the accounts of the people from the Kelly Hopkinsville incident. So it's not that Gremlins, it's not that critters are ripoffs of each other, or ET, or any of that shit. They all share DNA. If anything, they're cousins, is what I'm saying. Because the same initial UFO report inspired on some level all elements of all three movies. And here we are, Critters is a much more faithful adaptation of the original UFO incident. And if you read up on it, that's pretty much the case. So we're going to run through the basic plot of the film is that the Krites asteroid blunts some people away, and they end up crash landing on Earth, essentially. Or just landing on Earth because it's a place to get a good meal. They target mostly this family in the middle of nowhere called the Browns that live on this farm. They seem like a good source of food. They've got livestock and people that the Krites can eat. So they pretty much set about isolating them away from themselves. At the same time, we have a couple of intergalactic bounty hunters that are on their way to Earth and have arrived there and generally cause chaos throughout the film. On their way to locate these Krites, which happen to be at the Brown farm out in the middle of nowhere. So we've got two parallel forces of chaos working through this small town that's never seen anything like this. And a pretty good cast of characters reacting to it. We got Scott Grimes as Brad Brown. We've got Dee Wallace as Helen Brown. We've got Billy Greenbush as Jay Brown. Nadine Vandervelde as April Brown. And then we got Don Keithopper as Charlie McFadden. And Terrence Mann as Ugg/Johnny Steele. We've also got M. Emmett Walsh as the sweaty old sheriff, Harv. Lynn Shay as Sally, who's like the sheriff dispatcher, and Billy Zane as Steve. I guess let's start with Brad. What do you guys think of Brad as the family? We'll just wrap it all into one. What do you guys think of the Brown family? They're really the main characters of this shit. So what do you think of them individually? Forrest, we'll go with you.
All right. Honestly, I think even though he's supposed to be the protagonist of the first two movies, Brad is, at least in the first movie, Brad is a little shit. It's like he wonders, and he's such a jerk to his sister. He wonders why his parents keep grounding him.
Yeah.
At least in the first movie. I know in the second movie, I think he definitely is a lot. He is definitely more of a hero. Or like more mellowed out. The parents. Dee Wallace is great. Dee Wallace is great. Dee Wallace is always great. I don't know. I will say this: as far as Jay, he's got. He did have that pretty sweet Pinbusters shirt. Coming hot off of Ghostbusters, I dug his bowling team's Pinbuster T-shirts, Pinbuster shirts. And April, she's a teenage girl. She's a teenage girl. She's a teenage girl with a boyfriend. I will say rewatching the movie recently, April's a character I definitely feel for. Yeah, I feel for only because her brother is such a terrorist.
See, I don't see that way. Brad isn't that bad to me. Brad rescues her fucking twice in the movie too.
He does.
So we can't leave that out of there.
True. True.
He puts himself on the line hard to rescue April twice. My entire notes for April Brown is kind of a bitch, bit of a slut too, doesn't add a ton to the film. She's just kind of there. She helps Brad move some furniture a couple of times later on. And then they have a really touching moment where she realizes this kid has been saving our ass all goddamn night long. So she's like, I forget what exactly she says. She's like, be careful or whatever as he's leaving. And it's a really touching brother and sister moment that always almost chokes me up for some reason. But yeah, it's I don't know, man. It just to me it feels like Brad is like one of the best hero kids in horror cinema. You know,
well,
that dude
let's look at.
leaps out of a fucking window and
True.
the entire house, climbs a tree, scales the roof, and lets him into the house, and still puts his ass on the line like several times more in the movie.
I mean, if you think
I don't
about
know.
it, most
I have
of
a hard
those,
time seeing him as that bad in this. You know,
yeah, most of those
What were you
hero
gonna say, Brandon?
kids. I was just gonna say, most of those hero kids have that annoying little kid quality,
Yeah.
but they do have a fun quality to them. Especially if you're a kid watching it, you're supposed to be able to identify with them,
Right.
because most kids aren't perfectly behaved. They're slightly mischievous. And I mean, and then of course you got like some like the Kid in Feast, where they start off with like they wouldn't kill a kid, would they? But it is kind of fun to watch it and watch
Yeah,
a
they
kid
would.
that's not totally incompetent and whose only job is to get the heroes in more hot water, so they have to bail the kid out or put themselves in danger. Which is sadly how a lot of kids in movies have been, as unfortunate as that is.
Yeah, I think Brad is one of the better ones, to be honest. What about you, John? What do you think of Brad and April? I guess we'll talk about the brothers and sisters first.
Brad is the one character that I can relate to because I have two older sisters that I would mess with. So he's my favorite character of the movie, so I can really relate to that kind of character. The sister character, I agree with you. She doesn't really add that much to the movie, in my opinion. But the Brad character, I would definitely say that's the one. It's probably my favorite character in the movie, even beyond Charlie, which is the one character that's pretty much in all of them. But the Brad character.
Fuck yeah. What about you, Clint? What do you think of Brad and April, the kids in the flick?
Kind of split on Brad. I mean, I agree with Forrest in the sense that he was kind of a little shit, but I mean, at the same time, he was awesome as hell because he was into all the things that I cared about when I was a kid. Blowing shit up, shooting things with a slingshot. You know what I mean? Going places he wasn't supposed to go, like climbing on the roof and things like that. He's into bikes. I mean, what wasn't to like about this kid? You know what I mean? If you were a kid like that once yourself, and the sister, she was like your typical like rebellious teenage, girl wanting to do stuff and buttering up her dad just so he'd let her slide on stuff, and kind of she was underwhelming. Like I agree, she didn't add a whole lot. She was just there to give you
That's
somebody
kind of
else
most
to save.
80s sisters, though, I guess.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those
kinda.
80s sisters in movies are sort of like, half the time she was like, oh my God, my boyfriend died. Like, who am I going to date now? Like, that was probably what was going on through her head.
I don't know why I keep coming back to the scene in Paranorman where she's always hitting on the one guy the whole time, and then you find out that he's actually gay at the end.
That makes
So now
sense
we
because I thought Billy Zane was kind of gay in this one for a little while until she
That's just because
basically
he's respectful.
she bullied him into rolling around in the hayloft.
Dude, the way she says, I thought you were going to take me for a ride. It's like, oh, and then they get in the barn and then Billy Zane's trying to be respectful because, okay, listen, Billy Greenbush might not be a denim daddy in the sense of like, seed people, but he's a denim daddy in the sense that he wears those fucking overalls and he means it, like he will fuck you up, I think. And Billy Zane's obviously smart enough to pick up on that and maybe actually cares about this girl enough to be respectful, and she's just being a ravenous beast in this film, which is pretty much maybe the most offensive thing about it is the roll in the hay they take in the barn, and it's really not that bad. It's just he's rejecting her advances for most of it, and then once they get into it he immediately dies. So we're good. Yeah, I guess there's not a ton to say about Jay and Helen Brown. You know, Dee Wallace is sweet and beautiful and awesome, and then she has some really like standout moments in this movie as far as like performances go. Billy Greenbush, I'm not sure that guy cared where he was when he was doing any of this. I mean, he did an okay job, but he just feels like a literal dad that's there like humoring everyone. So in terms of performances, I would say he's the weak link of the film, really. But it's rad that he participated, you know. I don't know what his stance on Critters was after the fact, but yeah. You know, what do you guys think about the parents? Forrest, we'll go with you.
I mean, yeah, I feel like they're just kind of there. They're kind of there. I mean, Bradley's really the. I mean, Bradley's pretty much the. I mean, he's the hero of the. I mean, he's supposed to be. I mean, he is the hero. I mean, yeah, he is a shit, but he's also the hero of the family. Supposed to be also the hero of the movie. So I feel like any development of the parents kind of just gets overshadowed by Bradley.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, what about you, John?
They're painfully average. I mean, they're just the average 80s parent that, you know, they serve their purpose in the movie. And
made even more average by the fact that they're like rural 80s parents, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Do you appreciate either of their performances in this? I think Dee Wallace really has some standout moments, but it's Dee fucking Wallace. I mean, of course he does.
100%. You know, she's good in everything, so I think she makes that character as good as she can. I mean, from what was written on the page, but it's because it's her. She's automatically great.
Pretty much. What about you, Clint? What do you think about the parents in this film? You got anything you want to add? I mean, we've all sung praise of fucking Billy Greenbush's bowling shirt, too.
Yeah. No, his shirt's great. I wondered if there was maybe something like alcoholic in that mason jar he kept like walking around with, like somehow that's what he was using to get through being on set. Like, it's kind of like, as you said, he didn't really seem like he wanted to be there. Like he was just collecting a paycheck, you know. And he's like this Mitt Romney looking dude. Like I don't know how to describe him. He felt a little bit out of place, you know, with that haircut and so forth. But for the most part, I mean, he did his purpose. I mean, he was a dad, and he had I think the right kind of relationship with his rebellious young boy, even though he was a little like abusive in some of the things he said, but for the time, I think that was normal. And I gotta love, you know, hot farm wife Dee Wallace. I mean, she was great. I mean, it's and she was given a performance that was over the quality of this movie, I think.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think there's a single one of us that grew up on, like, you know, 80s or 90s horror films that wouldn't drink Dee Wallace like a fucking Jello shot. I mean, the lady is, you know, I'd suck it right out of the cup. I mean, you know, so I have no shame in admitting that, like, I just have a massive Dee Wallace crush, and even just her watching the fucking Power of the Night music videos, like, simultaneously hot and funny and weird, you know? But
I was saying,
yeah,
like,
how many just like, kind of there.
I was gonna say, how many rural parents in the 80s do you see watching rock videos on TV?
Yeah, and she's sitting there in like her best little house on the prairie,
knitting,
sort of, you know, wife dressed, and just watching it, and it just reminds you of like probably our grandparents, really, but. All of our like maternal figures in our lives as well.
I was gonna say, it kind of reminds me of going.
She wasn't changing the channel, you know.
I don't know. It kind of reminds me of going to my grandmother's house and finding her watching BET.
Right, like it happens, you know. My entire notes for fucking Jay Brown in this film is stern but fair, hardworking, looks good in a bowling shirt. That's the character, I think. You know, Billy Greenbush was just there. So he's the weak link performance-wise. I guess after that we have Charlie McFadden and old Terrence Mann, you know, Ugg / Johnny Steele. What do you guys think of Charlie? He is a major character in this film. Forrest, we'll go with you first.
I mean, he's kind of this. He's sort of like. I mean, he's kind of a precursor. I feel like he's sort of this precursor to characters. At least on the surface, he's like this. At least on the surface, he feels like this precursor to characters like Forrest Gump and Sling Blade.
Yeah,
kind of slow. You know, kind of. You know, just like from just being like slow to his look. He's got that look that Forrest Gump and
Sure.
Sling Blade have.
Yeah. Rural word we can't say anymore. But yeah, I guess I get what you're saying. Yeah.
well, totally. I agree with that entirely. There's sort of like you were talking Stephen King a little earlier, and Stephen King always likes to put somebody in the films that might come off slightly differently. But and I feel like he's the one that I would have expected on that.
Well, we got
Is that Bobby?
We got I think it
Yep,
is.
Bobby Heckman.
Clint Forrest Moan Company. All these sexy bastards in one place talk critters. Life is good. Billy Zane dies in Critters, yet he's worse as a character in Titanic and lives. No justice there.
Love it.
That is true. This might actually be Billy Zane at his moral high point in character development as far as like roles that he's taken. I've never seen 2004. I'll check it out at some point. Firestarter and Cat's Eyes.
I've seen Firestarter and Cat's Eyes.
Charlie is the hero, but that's just because he was ride or die, right? Like that dude that did it was down, and from everything I've read, he basically this is his career as Critters, you know. I really am a little bit bummed on Scott Grimes for not coming back for more Critter stuff. I feel like if him and Charlie had became the new bounty hunters, I could have gotten behind a series of that so fucking hard. Especially with, you know, Brad's ability to make explosives and things like that could have been able to be expanded upon. They missed a lot of opportunities with the casting in this thing, but I'm sure it was for reasons that we don't understand.
I did say the dad was the one who kept constantly getting torn up, wasn't he? He kept getting the gun. I don't know. The dad had almost a badass quality about him because he kept taking damage. He kept moving. He kept going. You got to give him that. He was the damage sponge of the whole group.
So what do you think of Charlie, John?
I find him to be a likable character. He's, you know, he's the lovable, you know, drunk, you know, and I think his character gets stronger over the series. Like I think in Critters 4, he has a really good moment in that movie. At the end of that movie, where it shows that he can be more than the wacky, comic relief bounty hunter.
So it's sort of like the guy guy in Phantasm, who starts off as sort of the comic relief guy, but then comes back with the double shotgun and
Reggie.
Yep.
He is the Reggie of this series for fucking sure. Is Charlie? What about you, Clint? What do you think of Charlie?
He's endearing. He's the one that the whole town just never takes seriously. You know, he's kind of the one that they all coddle. They're like, okay, yeah, it's okay, man. Have another drink, you'll be fine. And I like how he clings to the fact that he's essentially fallen from grace. You know, he had this budding fishing career.
Fishing, wasn't it baseball?
I thought he said fishing earlier, but I could be wrong. But it all went to shit, you know, when he started receiving alien broadcasts. I don't know if it's through the fillings in his mouth or something. I don't know, but they did it real quick in the dialogue toward the beginning, and I was like, wow, that's a really interesting backstory. And suddenly he became a drunk, and nobody gave a shit about him anymore.
Am I tripping that it's baseball? That Charlie used to be.
I could have heard
I
it
swear
wrong.
at one point in the movie they mentioned that he used to like be a good pitcher or something like that. Am I fucking inventing this subplot in my head?
Maybe he said pitching and not fishing. I could have heard it wrong.
Yeah, because he throws the beer bottle or whatever
At the end, yeah.
at the thing. Now you're making me kind of, I don't know.
Now I have to rewatch it again. It's been a week.
Did everybody think it was fishing until I said pitching?
I thought
so there wasn't a consensus on this before I introduced.
I thought it was pitching, but yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pitching.
It's probably me.
Honestly, I feel like there's a certain amount though of Charlie's mentality or like the way it's handled. I don't know. There's like we all know those guys that are like nobody believes your local conspiracy theorist until he's right. And it's like, well, if you fucking make a bunch of random projections, dude, you're going to eventually be right. You know, we all remember like TV psychics of the 90s or like bullshit from the Nostradamus stuff. Like if 1 in 10 of them is right, people are like, oh, you know, but in reality, it's just you were crazy most of the time. And I love that they handle it like that in Critters because even the dudes that are part of it ignore Charlie until the absolute end of the movie. Like he's just wandering around like, guys, can I get one of those things to fucking prove that like, you know, this wasn't crazy? And then they managed to take that character, blend it with the real shit and spin it into a character that in the subsequent movies is like a weird conspiracy theorist that would be living in an Airstream trailer at the local national park or something. But he's also telling the truth, you know. It's a brilliant character, the Charlie character.
Yeah.
And
today that guy would have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, he would have a YouTube channel, and I mean, I don't know if I'd want to watch Charlie's YouTube channel. I feel like it would be one of those ones that was like grossly political too, but hopefully not. I think the character is genius, though. Like again, he starts out like Bobby said, you know, town drunk to hero of the universe, pretty much, and that's a great character arc when you watch it as it sort of develops through the films. The worst he looks, in my opinion, is what is it, like fucking Critters 3, where he scares the kids with the frisbee in the woods. Like that's one of the most uncomfortable fucking scenes in the whole series. So what do you guys think about our sub characters? You know, we'll bang through those real quick, and then we'll get into favorite scenes and other theories.
Oh, I love the aliens.
Oh, God.
I love the alien bounty hunters. Those are my favorite characters in the whole thing.
True enough, man. It looks like both of them were basically played by Terrence Mann, yeah? Or am I wrong on that?
Well, one of them was.
One of them was, yeah.
They didn't list it at the time I was taking notes anyways of who's the other guy. Is it just the dude that plays Jeff?
I think so.
I mean, it felt like other people just filled in for the other character through the whole.
Yeah, several times. Yeah, there was a couple of them.
I love how in one of the scenes, the one guy ends up getting like a Playboy magazine, and then ends up copying the Playboy magazine.
that was in the second movie.
Yeah, that's in Curtis too, bro. We'll get there. Well, and now that we're talking about it now, though, if you could copy people like these guys, whose tits are you taking? Because we all know that we're taking lady form at least once so that we can squeeze a pair of tits. So let's not pretend like we don't have people in mind for that. Forrest, who are you taking? Whose tits are you squeezing on your own body?
Oh, God.
Go for it,
seriously? Bro. All right.
100% seriously.
Okay, 100% seriously. Sydney Sweeney.
There you go. Not a bad choice. Jonathan.
Scarlett Johansson.
Clint.
I'll go Gianna Michaels.
Brandon?
Old school Kim Cattrall.
Ooh, nice.
Angela Lansbury.
Holy shit.
In any era. I'll take it. If
was
you
gonna say-
actually want to like put her in my hands and like do a time lapse Benjamin Button reverse thing where she just ages until she's a skeleton with her boobs in my hand, I'd be fine with that. We're gonna get weird with it. Let's make it weird. But no, seriously, Angela Lansbury, like circa 1950, 60 something. You know, she was fucking hot back then, dude.
Yeah, no, seriously.
And at some point in my life, I learned that, and I looked up Angela Lansbury because I'm a fan of her because of Murder, She Wrote, right? Like I would see that with my parents and shit. Pretty much, actually, every time that I was ever home from school, I would watch Murder, She Wrote. Like if I had the flu or something like that growing up. And yeah, I just loved Angela Lansbury, and then I heard from someone that she was hot back in the day, and so I looked it up, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, she was." You know?
Yeah.
So sign me
Same.
up for a piece of that. But I'd squeeze her old boobs too, just respect. You know?
See,
Yeah.
I got disappointed at the finale of that show. The finale should have been. It turns out that she committed every single one of those murders herself. That would have been the best ending.
All right,
And framed all those people.
Yes.
So since we're talking about what forms we would take, you know, we covered the lady form from part 2, but if we had to take a celebrity form like you did with Johnny Steele, which celebrity would you take? We'll start with you, Clint. Or actually, you look like you're thinking about it real hard. We'll start with you, Brandon. Which celebrity would you take if you were to take not Johnny Steele, obviously, but like, you know,
Danny DeVito. Slay it.
that would be fucking awesome. What about you, John?
Vern Troyer.
I can see it. Like Danny DeVito, but smaller. I think if there was a Pokemon evolution of the bounty hunters, you would evolve from Vern Troyer into Danny DeVito, and then eventually Peter Dinklage. Forrest, do you have a choice for celebrity that you would take the form of?
Oh, geez. If I were taking a form of celebrity as a bounty hunter, Oh, geez. I'm not sure. Honestly, I can't.
We'll come back to you. What about you, Clint?
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't mind being Kevin Bacon for a day.
Fuck yeah.
Why not?
We got a turkey. We're going.
That sounds pretty fucking gross and awesome. Yeah. I like how she revolts immediately by talking about turkey in the face of your Kevin Bacon.
Exactly. Yeah. It'd be cool to just be walking around and people, you know, keep playing that 7 Degrees of Me, you know, the whole time. Because I'm hunting Krites. Was it? Whatever it is.
It's a fox.
Well, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon is freaky. Like that's, you know, that when you even look at like our communities, you can do 6 degrees between you and like most of these people that make this stuff. Like it's crazy how there's like really most of the time only like 6 real things that separate you from being involved with another person, with the billions of people that are on the planet. You know. And then with celebrities, they manage to just refine it with the Kevin Bacon thing and like make it interesting. But chances are you are intimately involved with somebody across town from you that you've never met, that your lives just intersect in that way where like the same people or you deal with the same stuff, so that through a couple of different points, your lives are somehow connected. We're like a fungus that grows upon the planet. Within a certain meterage, we're all related. It's weird to think about it like that. So, I mean, what do you guys think of our minor characters in the film? We got Emmett Walsh up in here. We got Lynn Shay, and then we got Bill Zane, and the dude who plays Jeff. I forget his name.
I mean,
what do you guys think of those guys? It's just random peppered characters.
Obviously, Lynn Shay's great. Lynn Shay is great as the police dispatch. She's always got Lynn
Shay is a national fucking
treasure.
Dude.
Yes.
Okay. Whenever you see Lynn Shay in something, you know that it's going to be good. At least her part in it. And in this stuff, my favorite part with Lynn in Little Critters is where she's, Harvey, got to get down here. Like, it's getting crazy. Charlie and all these motherfuckers just got a bowling alley. And there's all those people like lining up at the desk, and she's saying this shit to Arv, and he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go deal with this, and then I'll go over there. And she hangs up, and she just looks at him and takes a bite of whatever she's eating, and just goes like, what? Whatever. That's all I can do. And she's in her hair curlers. I love it. I love it.
Uh-oh. Darn internet instability.
Man, it was the curlers. The curlers knocked him off.
I think that was it. Yeah.
I don't know. I always liked the guy who played the preacher, but then again, I keep thinking about the preacher in Santa's sleigh. For some reason,
Dave Thomas, yeah.
He's just like, oh, and don't forget those small. I was like, I saw that. I saw it's a $1 bill you put in there. It just cracks me up every time.
That was great. Yeah, the preacher was good. Yeah, I did like the sheriff. I did like Lynn Shay as the dispatcher. They were all fun, quirky, and just developed enough, for you to know who they were and what they were doing. Like, I really don't feel like they were overdone. You know what I mean? We didn't get a lot of backstories with them.
Yep, but we had a good cast. I think that the critters themselves, some of them had some individual personalities.
Absolutely.
Well.
Oh, they sure did.
We're under the leaps and sing with me.
Hey, you're back.
Good transition. I loved it.
Yeah.
3DP Films, or Bobby says, I would want to be either Brad Pitt or Clint.
All right.
That's all right. You can transform into me if you like for a little while.
Here you go.
So if there was a movie version of the Hamityville, would Brad Pitt be the one who plays you in that film?
I'm going to go for Hugh Jackman all the way.
All right.
Yeah, somebody beardy like that. That's Clint.
Yeah, actually, I think I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with Michael Keaton.
You guys unlocked a bad thing now, because I'm going to find that guy that looks like Clint playing a British sitcom, and it's gonna bum you guys out. Look at him. He's got that straight nose, and it's totally Clint, but not a flattering one. Hugh Jackman. We're gonna go with that.
Yeah.
We all look like somebody dodgy in a British sitcom, and that's even John. I mean, you have a very distinct thing with the long hair and the chops, but the balding forehead, like it's an iconic look to me. you and Forrest look like you guys would be like territory wrestlers back in the day. Like Forrest would be a guy that had like 3 championship belts.
I did, you know, to be honest,
he runs the promotion.
to be honest, I was not good at it, but I did do wrestle. I actually did do wrestling when I was a kid.
Ah,
That's dope.
so you were prepping for the Toxic Avenger role.
We really got to dive into our favorite parts of this because, you know, we've kind of talked about the characters. We've talked about all the details. Now we're in the last 20 minutes of this. We really got to share like the highlights of the fucking film. So for you, Forrest, what would you say are like top 3 scenes in this movie?
Oh God, top 3 scenes. I would say, when the Krites are getting shot at on the front front porch. And like one of them gets shot, the other one just yells, screams "fuck," and takes off. So that Billy Zane getting it, and I think the third place I'd probably go to. Let's just say the bounty hunters going around town and wrecking shit.
Well, and that's something we haven't really talked about yet with this is the pacing of Critters. All right. As we dive into these scenes, we should also talk about some highlights in other areas of the production. And pacing and writing is definitely one of them. Okay.
So I was definitely not bored.
Critters pretty much goes from start to finish. You know, it is an 1.5-hour movie. It's not like one of these low budget ones we watch that's like 50 to, an hour and 10. It's a full 1.5-hour movie, like a 90-minute movie. But it feels like it pretty much picks up right from the start and doesn't really let up. I mean, I don't think you're ever given more than like 5 minutes in any scene that is like downtime before you're looking at something else that's advancing the plot. And the genius of that with Critters is you have the family in the house, in the farmhouse, going through the whole siege aspect of the movie, dealing with the actual creatures. And then you have the bounty hunters roaming around town trying to find the creatures and just causing chaos the entire time. And then the thing that kind of stitches them together at the end is the town folk reacting to that shit and how it is tied to the Brown farm. And then boom, you have like an awesome finale.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to take back my last moment. That I'm going to swap that out with the one Krite trying to talk to the ET doll.
Yes,
I love it. And again, it brings it full circle with the way that these all share that sort of DNA from that Kelly Hopkins bill incident. Look it up, guys. I'm not talking shit. That is legit. Like when you read the incident, it's basically the plot of Critters without all the other stuff. Absolutely no way it's accidentally close. What's probably your favorite scene? Okay, because there's not a lot of blood and gore in Critters. That's something we have to address as well before we close this out. Critters is not, one of those movies that has a ton of elaborate. It has a lot of elaborate special effects, but it doesn't have a lot of elaborate gore effects.
The effects are more for the. I would say most of the effects are concentrated on like the creatures, the spaceships.
I do think that there's just enough blood to pull it off. I like it when a film can do like just enough to where your imagination can take over and fill in the rest. I don't like it when they immediately cut away. I think that's one of the things that I had as more of a problem with Five Nights at Freddy's. It cut away way too soon and relied way too much on the imagination. Whereas this one, I do feel like it had just enough that let me fill in the blanks of the gore. Especially as a kid, it was far more than enough for me as a kid. So
yeah, it doesn't go. It goes far enough, but it doesn't go too far to where you couldn't. I mean, honestly, I think a TV cut of this would just cut out some of the animal corpses and things like that. Like it wouldn't.
all
It's
the
not
cow.
too much you would have to cut from this to make it TV worthy. You know.
Reminds me.
I think that's pretty great. I mean, I don't think this movie would be helped at all by excessive gore. What do you guys think, though, of the effects in general? I guess we'll go with Clint.
I like the effects. I think one of my favorite scenes was the first transformation scene where Bounty Hunter turned into Johnny Steele.
Right?
Where they did some full head that they basically melted or whatever, and then just rolled it in reverse. I mean, it looked great. You take these alien bounty hunter guys that basically look like their heads are made out of yellow Play-Doh, and it just like dissolves down to like a skeleton and then like reforms into something else. That was super cool. Loved it. The critters were awesome. I mean, they had like animatronics. They had this cool thing that they did with their eyes. Didn't they use like blacklight paint almost or something?
Yeah.
And then they used some type of like spectrum splitter or something like that to like cause them to glow like that. I mean, it was a really cool effect coming through the window. That was probably the creepiest part that I can remember. And it was so simple and it looked awesome.
All the effects in it, even the critters rolling, is like at the end of the day kind of simple, but it works so good. And then they've used it in other movies, obviously. But man, I think the effects in this really do. They do a good job of like making the critters believable enough too, but also making them just campy enough to be funny as well. It's a fine line they ride there, but they
even
do
the spaceship
pretty well.
Even the spaceship effects were pretty cool looking. Of course, then again, the other movie I watched that weekend was Oversexed Drug Suckers from Mars. So I guess if I compare that spaceship to anything, whatever's beside it's going to probably look good compared to the Game of Simon that they attached some cardboard to. But
right. So I guess, outside of effects, what do you guys think of the cinematography of this film? Do you think it was shot well?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's in the dark. A lot of it's dark, but they use it to their advantage.
Yeah, I've seen dark films, and I can think of one in particular that was so dark that it destroyed the ending, but you could tell what was going on, and it can be difficult. Though I expect them to be well enough first to do it, but still,
See, I did not run into that at all. And I can. Do you guys it sounds like a dumb thing to ask, but are you guys frequent adjusters of your TV's settings? I mean, do you have like presets for certain? You should, because a lot of this stuff that you guys are talking about, I think, is mitigated if you actually use your TV's settings. Adjust for certain prints and movies and things like that. It's a nerdy thing to do, but I have presets for like Grindhouse. I have a preset for Full Moon. They tend to use set parameters on how they adjust things, so it can help.
There was no help in Camp Blood 4. It was just
that fucking sucks, even in the right lighting. So. It's like trying to take a picture of a dick and make it look bigger with different lighting or something. It's not going to work. I mean, it's the dick's the size that it is. Just live with it. I'm sorry, bro. I mean, a fisheye lens isn't gonna make that thing look fucking 10 feet long.
It doesn't matter when you can't see what's going on in the first place. But hey, sometimes it's better to do it in the dark.
So you guys got any favorite scenes from Critters? That's what this comes down to. Favorite scenes, and well, let's be honest, we haven't talked enough about the Power of the Night. That song fucking shreds.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
As I think we were talking, I think it was before the show. After it was earlier in the show, or before the show. I said that I had. But I said that I actually do have it on my Apple Music playlist.
It's a good song. It's quintessential 80s.
Yes. I would.
It rules, and that guitar solo is not a slouching solo. And
yeah, actually, I will say there's two. Actually, watching this, there's two things. There's two things in horror that I miss. One, tiny terrors, like small monsters. Number two, like rock and metal, like songs made, like rock and metal songs exclusive to the movie, like made for the movies.
See, I think the problem with that is that as movies got progressively cringier, also so did metal music in a lot of ways. I like some of it. I like a lot of it, actually. I mean, I love metal music, as you guys know, but
yeah,
man, is there a lot of it around that kind of stuff that's pretty annoying and kind of cringy, and I just don't know if I want any part of that.
yeah, I guess I meant like I guess not just rock, but like metal, but just like rock music that's associated with the movie, kind of like this, or like the Dickies with Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah,
you could even talk
or Return of the
Jason
Living
Lives.
Dead. Yes, Jason Lives
with Man Behind the Mask. You could talk about Dokken with the Dream Warriors.
Yep.
Damn. I mean, there's a few. I mean, even instrumentals. I mean, like the beginning of In the Mouth of Madness. I mean, some of that is just awesome.
I was gonna say the Demon Knight soundtrack.
We want to go deep. There's like Mushroom Head songs for like the fucking Scorpion King movie. We could do all types of dumb ones too.
Oh yeah.
It's music reflects the times it's done, and I think as time has gone on, they've done a lesser job of that. But you got to also remember, through a large portion of the 90s, like hard rock and metal was not cool. It was all about alternative rock and shit.
Yeah. Oh gosh,
so that's why you see a lot of horror movies that probably should have like their Dream Warriors song that don't, because we were pretty fucking uncool for a bit,
Now, one thing I think that a lot of scenes were brought up for favorites, but nobody brought up the cow scene. You cannot have an alien destruction movie without a good mutilated cow scene, and they knew it, and they did it, and I know that was a nod there, so I can't knock them for that.
I agree. That definitely belonged there. It was cool looking.
My favorite scenes in the movie are they're split between big scenes like that and then little ones. Like, I really love this in terms of just like a piece of cinematography and like building tension with the movie. The scene where they're all like the mom and the dad and April are walking out of the room. And Dee Wallace has the shotgun, and the dad like is kind of cowering in the back with the pole that he has, and the daughter is like hiding, and they're walking down the hallway. That's like one of my favorite, just scenes of the movie, because it just shows how like unhinged the situation has got, and how Dee Wallace, the mom of all of it, has the shotgun and is like
Yes.
taking charge. You know, I think my favorite scene period in Critters is that. I don't know, man. Probably the whole montage sequence. I just love it. The song that kicks in, everything. The critters are just getting up to all sorts of hijinks. That's maybe always my favorite scene in the movie. I love that it lasts like 30 seconds. You know, because in Gremlins that kind of became the formula for the whole movie. In the second movie, was just a huge montage of insane gremlin antics, you know, which is awesome. I'm not complaining about that. But Critters kind of figured out that you could do that in like 15 seconds and then just move on to the rest of the movie. You know? So there's something to be said about that as well. What do you guys think? Forrest.
What do I think? Actually, can you get? Actually, I'm gonna need to get back to you on that.
No problem.
So, all right.
Anybody else? John? Clint?
Yeah. I'd like to throw another favorite scene out there. I really liked when the bounty hunters were finally doing the whole room by room search in the house, and they found that Krite in the toilet and just blasted that.
Yes,
that was so. That was one of my favorites, and it probably always will be. I heard that the stunt guy actually got hurt doing that, like the effect that they did, like they literally blew up a toilet and like he got like shards of porcelain in his face.
Yeah, I knew that I heard that somewhere.
Yeah. So it's
what about you, John?
It looked awesome, and like you see like a quick cut where like the dude's face like goes back. I wondered if they just kept that in, if that was like the stunt guy real quick or something.
Probably.
I don't know. Have to look it up.
What about you, John? You got favorite scenes?
I was gonna mention the montage, but you brought it up. I'm gonna say the opening of the movie before the opening credits. The opening in itself is just a cool little teaser of things to come. It's just a cool little escape scene, and I
they
thought
could
that
do
was
so many prequel movies just based on that scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's really it's got so many different types of aliens crammed into it, and just different vibes. You know, like the whole space vibe of the thing is pretty much cemented by that first opening scene. You know, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Anybody else got any favorite scenes?
I probably let's see. I mean, I already did mention the ET doll. The ET doll.
I think really where Critters.
Oh, actually, that giant Krite at the near the end, when Krite gets huge.
It is pretty good.
Yes.
It adds a lot to the idea that the critters or the Krites aren't just, random aliens. Like they're an actual apex predator. They can shut you out and close you in and devour you absolutely, and then eventually grow to bigger sizes so they can devour everything else. Imagine how cool of a game that would be if you could do that, like Katamari Damacy style, but with critters.
I've always wondered,
people.
Dead by Daylight has incorporated pretty much every killer known to man into the game. I'm waiting for them to incorporate the critters into it.
Because
they just added Chucky the other day, so you never know. It might be coming.
Could happen. don't know, man. I think the family in Critters is pretty well established. I think they do a lot of things with this movie to make it exactly what it is, you know. There's a lot of hidden depth written into these characters that, with people like Brad, does pay off in later movies. I think it's a shame that they couldn't get Brad to come back for every Critters movie.
Yeah, I feel like he
would have made it.
Yeah, I sort of felt like he. I feel like he should have been the. Oh God. What's A. Michael Ball?
Exactly.
God. I'm trying to think of his name. Okay. I feel like he should have been the Mike Pearson to Charlie's Reggie.
Yeah. It could have made for a compelling series. Critters 3 and 4 are all right. You know, I like the movies, but they're just not the same without at least somebody from the original cast. It just feels diluted. You know,
it feels too removed from those first two movies. Although three, although at least I feel like 3 is at least, you know, it's definitely worth for me. I mean, I 3 at least has, you know, it's worth watching just for, you know, because you know, for being Leonardo DiCaprio's first movie.
I love Critters,
and it's still a fun movie. It's still fun.
Stuff like Critters Attack or whatever could have been way better if they actually got Don Keithhopper and, you know,
and Critters. I mean, yeah, and I feel like Critters 4 had a great cast. I mean, Brad Dourif, Angela Bassett, but I feel like they could have tightened the script.
Right. So I guess as we check out of this, favorite Critters movie, and what do you have going on lately? My favorite Critters movie will probably always be this first one. And what do I have going on lately? Nothing but what I'm doing with You Fine Bugs. Forrest, what's your favorite Critters film in the whole franchise? And
let's see.
What do you have going on?
Let's see. I mean, for me, I would say the original. Although I do watch the second movie every Easter. And then as far as what I've got going on, just been busy with various film projects. Doing behind the scenes, both acting and doing behind the scenes work.
There you go. John, favorite Critters film in the franchise, and what do you got going on?
The original, probably, the original. Number 2 is a close second, but the original. And as for what's going on, I'm setting up a few reviews coming up, and I'm doing some writing that hopefully will turn into something bigger.
Fuck yeah. What about you, Clint?
First Critters movie is always going to be my favorite. It doesn't matter how good the rest of them are. This one hit me the hardest, the first, and it's always going to be the one that I go back to and the one I think of is the most fun. As far as what I got going on, I mean, aside from this, I guess Mike and I are going to come up with another movie to review on Scream Until You Like It podcast, and I think Monday, I think Don and I are supposed to do like an online premiere for Jen Engel's Body Count for some of her backers. So I don't know if that's going to get recorded and put out, but I mean, it'll just be cool to be a part of it.
All right.
You and Mike should review the Poltergeist movies.
We might do that. We got a friend who's a really huge Poltergeist fan, so we might have to bring her into the mix and let her talk about it, because I know she's gonna have a ton of things to say. Like, she could literally recite the whole first movie.
That'd be a sick first guest episode,
I think it would. You got a good point there. I'll suggest it to him.
I know that he'd like it too, and hearing him in this accent discuss sounds like something I would listen to enthusiastically at work. So
Yeah. He's a fun guy to talk to, for sure.
oh, Mike rules.
Mm-hmm.
Turkeys.
What about you, Brandon? You got anything going on?
Actually, my very first feature film officially released today, so I guess that's a positive.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Yep. So actually, this year has been very weird because I've directed 2 short films that have been published, and now this is it's a documentary film, but it's still kind of cool. It's on Anhedenia Films on demand. $2 gets you access, and you can purchase it through Vimeo if you want. Called the Anhedenia Project.
Well, there you go, dude. We'll definitely be looking into that. It sounds awesome. I love Evan's stuff. Evan's going to be on here, hopefully, with us for the Motel Hell discussion that we're going to be doing in the near future.
Oh, yeah. Well, he said just tell him when it is, and he's going to try.
Yeah. Cheers for hanging out. This has been Critters. We have been the Schlockaholics. We'll see you next time.